2020 is a year to remember, or as many people would see it, a year to forget, a year that we wish had never happened. And we're only halfway through it. Not only did we have to face the coronavirus, which has devastated the economies of country after country around the world, devastated the lives of individuals who have lost their jobs, and business owners who have lost their businesses. But then we had the incident that happened up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and individuals who were sincerely outraged by what they saw took to the streets in peaceful protest. It didn't take long, though, before bad actors began to infiltrate these protests. Soon we had riots where people were breaking into stores. It didn't matter whether it was a minority-owned store or not. They broke the windows, they went in, they grabbed anything they could of any value, and then they vandalized those places, destroyed it. They spray paint all over walls and windows and businesses, the windows that are still left. But we see anarchy now in our streets. We have the situation in Seattle, Washington, a major city here in the United States, where anarchists have taken over several city blocks downtown. And then this last weekend, we had the first murder to take place in that CHOP zone, as they call it, that autonomous zone. We had 2 other shootings within that autonomous zone as well. So it hasn't turned out to be the city of love or a summer of love, not in CHOP. But it's even worse in the city of Chicago. This last weekend saw over 100 people shot, 14 of which died, 5 of which were children, and 1 as young as 3 years of age. Other protests around the country, the tearing down of statues, have filled our news. And so you might be forgiven if you didn't hear about Stuttgart, Germany, or Charlotte, North Carolina, unless you lived in one of these cities. I'd like to tell you what happened in Stuttgart on Saturday night and Sunday morning. From DW, a German source, it says, "We were listening to music," this is Julia speaking, "some were dancing and just having fun, and then it all escalated. Like scores of others, the 17-year-old met up with friends on Saturday night at a park downtown in Stuttgart. She says she left earlier on in the evening, but quickly saw videos of what happened on Snapchat. Now, standing in the city's shopping district, surrounded by boarded-up storefronts and scattered broken glass, it's hard to believe that a night of partying erupted into one of the worst riots that Stuttgart has seen in recent memory. Anwar S., an 18-year-old who also witnessed the events unfold on Saturday night, said although there were tensions between the partiers and police, he couldn't understand why some of the rioters began damaging stores. Quote, "They thought they were in an American movie where anything goes." What an indictment on American culture. Authorities have now launched a massive investigation, but the question on everyone's mind in Stuttgart is, how did this get so out of hand? You know, similar thoughts have been expressed here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Sunday night, there was a party, a block party, of about 400 people. For whatever reason, somebody was hit by a car. This was on a busy area, and somebody was hit by a car. An ambulance was called, and when the ambulance arrived, perhaps because of the sound of the siren on the ambulance, perhaps that's the reason, we don't know, shooting broke out. 400 people in this area, and police say that there were over 100 shots that were fired. There were no videos of it that have come forward, at least, but on the radio you could hear the sound of it from recordings that were given there. And at least one gun was not a semi-automatic, it must have been an automatic because the sound of it was like a machine gun. In the aftermath, 3 were dead, 11 others were injured. 5 of those injured were hit by cars as they ran across the street trying to get out of the way. It's truly remarkable that more people weren't killed. And in the aftermath, we have leaders in the city who are speaking out, saying, how could this happen? It's got to stop. Something's got to change here. People are angry at seeing their children and their friends being killed in wanton violence in that way. We might ask the question, why do we have so much violence in our world? And I've addressed this a little bit in another video, but I'd like to point out another factor in this, because this is central to why we have so much violence, why our world is going in the direction it's going, why we've had so much violence and disharmony in our world, so much hatred in our world from the very beginning. I'd like to read from a source that people would like to reject, like to forget, and that is the Bible. And whether we like it or not, it gives us the reason for all these things happening. I'd like to read here from two passages of Scripture. The first one is 2 Corinthians, the 4th chapter, verses 3 and 4. It says, "But even if our gospel is veiled, it is veiled to those who are perishing, whose minds the God of this age has blinded." The God of this age. How many people read right over that? How many professing Christians read right over that and never stop to consider what it means? How many realize that 3 times in the book of John, Jesus referred to an individual as the ruler of this world? In John 12, John 14, and John 16. He speaks of the devil as the ruler of this world, the ruler of this age. In Ephesians, the 2nd chapter, verses 1 and 2, it says, "And you he made alive, who were dead in trespasses and sins, in which you once walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit who now works in the sons of disobedience." Yes, there is a spirit power and influence that comes into the minds of human beings that stirs up hatred and violence and jealousy and lust and greed. And that spirit power is working. He is active today, as he always has been. But as we get closer to the end of this age, we can expect more violence and more problems. Because at some point in time, he will know that his time is short. And he's actually going to fight against God once again, try to overthrow him. That probably hasn't happened yet, but he does know that his time is short. And we see violence escalating in our world. And who knows how 2020 is going to go down historically. The first half has not been very good, and the second half is not really looking that much better to start with. So it's just a question of where will it go. But the Bible gives us answers, real answers to real problems in the world in which we live. This is Gerald Weston for Tomorrow's World, June the 24th, 2020. I hope you'll subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss any of our videos. In the meantime, be careful, and I really do hope that in spite of all the troubles that we have in our world, that you will have a wonderful day.